एपीआई भन्नासाथ मैले चाहिँ आइदर XML को इनबाट चाहिँ डेटा एक्सपोज गर्छु अथवा डेटा चाहिँ शेयर गर्छु सो दैट अरु एप्लिकेसनले चाहिँ मेरो एप्लिकेसनमा चाहिँ कनेक्ट गर्न सकोस्। सो अदर एप्लिकेसन क्यान बी एनीथिङ, डेस्कटप हुन सक्छ, मोबाइल हुन सक्छ अथवा चाहिँ अदर सफ्टवेयर वेब एप्लिकेसन हुन सक्छ है। In all of the cases, we are just exposing our HTTP services. Request आउँदाखेरि चाहिँ इन्टरनेटको थ्रुबाट चाहिँ आउनु पर्यो अथवा चाहिँ नट एक्ज्याक्टली ब्राउजरकै थ्रुबाट पनि आउनुपर्छ भन्ने पनि छैन। यु क्यान अल्सो सेन्ड रिक्वेस्ट युजिङ पोस्टम्यान अथवा चाहिँ रेस्टम्यान भन्ने अब अरू एप्लिकेसन छ। So with that also you can also test whatever web services you have exposed. So if you consider any of the internet banking, mobile banking, okay, so software can be from one vendor and those API which is okay used, that can be by other vendors. So in this case, okay, your web API can be accessed by any of the clients, including browsers, mobile devices, So if you want to build RESTful applications, so there is only two ways. One is a SOAP format of API development. Okay, this means you will be exposing or you will be just sending some XML structured data. So that is called SOAP format. Other is your RESTful API. So with this, you will be just sending or exposing your data in JSON format, the plain text format. So for this ASP.NET Web API, this is more or less similar to your ASP.NET MVC web application. Only difference is that with Web API, you will be just sending the HTTP response, okay, instead of sending or instead of just loading a HTML view pages. So other way, it's also like web services or WCF service. So this is also one of the project that you can create on Visual Studio. So when you consider with this, only difference you can find is with HTTP request or the response thing. So this is the general structure. Let's say you have a web API. Now this web API, you can either connect or send request with either of your web applications, mobile applications, or your WinForms or the desktop applications. So what we'll do is we'll send HTTP request. Then this request, on the basis of this request, some processing will be done on your web APIs. Then on the basis of the request, it will generate some response. So those response you will get again in HTTP format. So this can be either JSON, XML, or other formats. Okay. Same thing for the mobile application and WinForm applications. So some of the distinct characteristics or the feature you can say for the web application. Okay. The first one is it's a framework that you can use to build HTTP services so that it can be accessed from any of your client devices. Next one, it's ideal for building RESTful applications on your .NET framework. Okay, next one is it's an extensible framework which is based on this HTTP services, and this can be.
Figure very explain.
Okay, fine. Figure ma केही छ केही छ भनेदेखि सोधौँ अथवा आफूले के कति बुझेको छ भनौँ है अनि एक्जाम्पल सहित म भनिदिन्छु यसमा के छ नबुझेको
पछि कुन आयो नि बुझेन के एचटीटीपी रिक्वेस्ट पछि कता गयो
ए होइन एचटीटीपी रिक्वेस्ट चाहिँ वेब एपीआई मै गएको छ यसमा हेरौँ है मेरो एउटा एप्लिकेसन चाहिँ वेब एपीआई भनेर मैले बनाएको छु भन्दैन मैले त्यो रिक्वेस्ट चाहिँ आइदर मेरो वेब एप्लिकेसन भनेको चाहिँ अथवा यु क्यान सिम्पली रिफर मैले कुनै वेबसाइटबाट चाहिँ रिक्वेस्ट पठाएको पनि हुनसक्छ कि मैले वेबसाइटबाट पठाउँदाखेरि द्याट क्यान बी एचटिटिपी रिक्वेस्ट हुनसक्छ भनेको है सिमिलरली मैले चाहिँ लेट्स से मोबाइल एप बनाइरहेको छु मोबाइल एप पनि त आफूहरूले मोबाइल ब्याङ्किङ त चलाएको छ नि होइन मोबाइल ब्याङ्किङ अथवा वाट एभर जस्तै मैले फेसबुकै चलाइरहेको छु युट्युबै चलाइरहेको छु भन्दाखेरि आफूहरूलाई के लाग्छ मेरो मोबाइल एप जुन छ मैले जे कुरा क्लिक गर्छु त्यो चाहिँ कसरी जान्छ सिधै डाटाबेस कल गर्छ होला वाट डु यु थिङ्क डाटाबेस कल गर्छ होला कि अथवा एपिआई कल गरेर डेटा चाहिँ लोड गरेर त्यो देखाउँछ होला
एपिआई कल गर्छ होला
यस एक्ज्याक्टली मैले जस्ट रिक्वेस्ट पठाउँछु कि त्यो रिक्वेस्ट पठाएकोलाई चाहिँ एपिआई लेभलमा चाहिँ डाटाबेससँग कनेक्ट गर्ने डेटा प्रोसेस गर्ने सबै वेब एपिआई लेभलमै हुन्छ है उसले मलाई चाहिँ एज अ एचटिटिपी रेस्पोन्स चाहिँ मलाई पठाउने हो कि भनेको सर्टन डेटा फर्मेटै मलाई पठाउँछ डाइरेक्ट यो मोबाइल एप्लिकेसनले डाइरेक्ट डाटाबेस प्रोसेसिङको काम गर्दैन कि त्यसरी बुझ्नु पर्यो मैले सपोज इन्टरनेट ब्याङ्किङ चलाउँ अथवा चाहिँ मोबाइल ब्याङ्किङै चलाउँ सिम्पली उनीहरूले कनेक्ट गर्ने भनेको चाहिँ वेब एपिआई नै हो कि है नेक्स्ट वान भनेको जस्तै अब विन फर्म्स एप्लिकेसनले पनि अब त्यसरी कनेक्ट गरेर चल्न सकिन्छ भनेर मैले देखाएको भन्नुको मतलब चाहिँ जस्तै मैले कुनै सफ्टवेयर बनाएँ अथवा चाहिँ आफूले कुनै सफ्टवेयर बनायो भनेदेखि अब हामी दुईवटा सफ्टवेयर बिच केही डेटा एक्सचेन्ज गर्नु पर्यो अथवा इन्ट्र्याक्ट गराउनु पर्यो भनेदेखि आफूले मलाई डेटाबेसमै कनेक्ट गर भनेर सिधै कनेक्ट गर्न दिन्छ होला त अथवा कुनै सफ्टवेयर कम्पनीले केही कुरा बनाएको छ भनेदेखि ल आउनु त मेरोमा डाटाबेस कनेक्टै गर डाटाबेसको यो हो भनेर दिन्छ दिँदैन नि डेफिनेटली जस्तै ई सेवासँग चाहिँ सपोज पेमेन्ट गेटवे हामीलाई इन्टिग्रेट गर्नु पर्यो लेट्स से ई सेवा खल्तीसँग हो भने दे विल जस्ट गिभ यु देयर एपिआई त्यो एपिआईमा चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ कनेक्ट गरेर अब हेर्ने हो कि ओके सो इक्जाम्पल म एउटा अब देखाइ पनि दिन्छु है कस्तो हुन्छ भनेर फर इक्जाम्पल अब यस्तो केही त आफूहरूले देखेकै होला सपोज अब कुनै पेमेन्ट गर्ने कुनै प्लेटफर्म आफूहरूले देखेको छ भनेदेखि लेट्स से दिस इज आवर एप्लिकेसन होइन यहाँबाट मैले केही पेमेन्ट गर्नु पर्यो भनेदेखि लेट्स से मैले यहाँ एउटा केही राखेँ सो दिस वान इज चाहिँ मैले अब सपोज खल्ती ल्याउँ अथवा चाहिँ इन्टरनेट ब्याङ्किङ मोबाइल ब्याङ्किङ जुनसुकै ल्याउँ नाउ दिस एप्लिकेसन इज कलिङ द वेब एपिआई मैले यहाँ क्लिक गरेर यहाँ गर्न सक्छु अब के आउँछ दिस इज कलिङ वेब एपिआई अफ खल्ती यहाँबाट चाहिँ मैले अब केही राखेर चाहिँ प्रोसेस चाहिँ गर्न सक्छु सिमिलरली अब मैले ब्याक गरेँ दिस वान मैले सपोज एम ब्याङ्किङ लिएँ अथवा चाहिँ वाट एभर सबमिट गरेँ भनेदेखि मलाई चाहिँ अब यसरी चाहिँ अप्सन उसले दियो कि यहाँबाट चाहिँ एगेन लिस्ट अफ यो एपिआईबाटै तानेर लोड गरेको आइकन छ र है अब यहाँबाट चाहिँ मैले सिम्पली बटन क्लिक गरेँ नाउ दिस गोज टु दिस चाहिँ युआरएलै अर्कोमा गइरहेको छ कि त्यो युआरएल अर्कोमा लगेर उसले सर्टन कुरा प्रोसेस गराउँछ उसकै फोन जस्तो दियो मलाई सो दिस क्यान बी एनी वे है उसले अब पेज उसको आफ्नो पेज लोड गराएर उसको लिङ्कमा पठाएर पनि हुनसक्छ अर सिम्पली डेटा मात्र उसले चाहिँ प्रोसेस गरेर ल डेटा भनेर चाहिँ हाम्रो पेजमा पनि दिन सक्छ हाम्रो पेजमा चाहिँ रिटर्न गर्छ त्यसलाई चाहिँ हामीले रिड गरेर हाम्रो पेजमा रेन्डर गरिदिने हो कि द्याट्स इट ठिक छ अब सपोज यहाँ मैले चाहिँ अब नम्बर राख्छु सो यु आर फ्यामिलियर होइन यहाँ नम्बर राख्छु यहाँ पासवर्ड राख्छु लगइन भनेको अब एउटा लगइन गरेर यहाँ मैले अब सर्टेन एमाउन्ट चाहिँ तिर्दिन्छु कि देन त्यो तिरिसकेपछि सक्सेस मेसेज सहित उसले चाहिँ मलाई फेरि मेरो पेजमा रिडिरेक्ट गरिदिन्छ। भन्नुको मतलब यो सक्सेस भइसकेपछि मेरो यो पेज यो युआरएलमा चाहिँ रिटर्न गर है भनेर मैले चाहिँ दिएको हुन्छ कि भने। सो द्याट इज हाउ ओके वेब एपिआई बनाउँदाखेरि चाहिँ अब मैले चाहिँ यसरी चाहिँ इन्टरेक्ट गर्छु कि। ठिक छ? ओके
ओके सर।
ओके ल। So we are on this, some of the characteristics. Okay, so next one, third, fourth point is which is more or less similar to ASP.NET MVC. Only difference is with how they work with the data. This means they are sending data as a response instead of your HTML pages. Similarly, when you just compare with the web services or WCF services, so again, okay, this only supports HTTP protocol when you create your application with this web APIs. So with the concept on this, okay, we'll move on to this ASP.NET Core. Still, we have ASP.NET Web Framework or the ASP.NET Web Applications. So with that, we have already created web forms or your ASP.NET MVC applications. So this is new over the previous one, okay, ASP.NET Web Framework. One more addition, you can refer this as ASP.NET Core. So why this is introduced? Because they want it to be free, open source, and the sharp feature is cross-platform framework. So that whatever application you develop in this core, that you can deploy on your Windows, Linux, or the Mac OS as well. So this means a platform independent thing. Okay. So next one, it also allow you as a developer so that you can manage modern UI frameworks such as this AngularJS, React.js, Bootstraps, and others that you can implement in this .NET Core. So just a simple difference with what is a .NET Core and ASP.NET Core. Simple. This is similar. You can refer as what's the difference with we have previously observed, I guess. Okay, what is .NET framework and ASP.NET framework? Okay, so both this .NET Core and this are open source and cross-platform. .NET Core, which is similar as we have referred, is a runtime that is used to build and execute applications. Next one for this ASP.NET Core. So this one, when we talk about ASP.NET, it's generally a web framework that we can use to develop web applications, okay, or the web APIs we can refer. So this always sits on top of the .NET Core or the .NET framework. Next one for this .NET Core, we need to install this .NET Core runtime so that we can run our application. So this means we need to install .NET Core SDK, Software Development Kit, okay, to build and execute such applications developed in .NET Core platforms. So for this ASP.NET, this will use .NET Core runtime. So I have written there is no separate runtime and SDK available for this. Okay, it uses .NET Core runtime and the SDK that is included with this .NET Core itself. Next one we can find the current latest version is 3.1. Okay, so ASP.NET Core 3.1. They just refer to the .NET Core. So there is no such thing as the separate version for the ASP.NET Core. So whatever .NET Core latest it came, it will use the same. So let's find some of the key features or the characteristics of this ASP.NET Core. One thing is the multiple platform. This means multiple OS you can deploy. Okay, So with the hosting also, we can deploy on multiple platform, creating web services, your servers. Okay, web servers can be either on your Windows, you can refer as IIS or the Internet Information Services. For the Linux platform, you can create Apache. Okay, so on these platforms, on these web servers, you can deploy your application development in ASP.NET Core. So independent of IIS means your OS platform as Windows. Okay, we can deploy and we can also go with the other OS as well. Next one is fast. Fast. This means it helps reduce the request pipeline, hence giving you more performance and scalability on your application. Next one is IOC containers. Okay, so this one includes IOC containers for automatic dependency injection. So this means your application will be more maintainable, and it's more easy to go with the testing things. Next one is it supports integration of the modern UI frameworks, means AngularJS you can work on with, okay, React JS. So these other frameworks also you can integrate with your ASP.NET Core. Next one is code sharing or the code bases. Okay, so it gives you to build class libraries. So once you create class libraries on your project, then you can share this with other projects or the other frameworks as well. So from a single code base, we can create, or we can reuse whatever created on some application to other applications. So this means shared across multiple frameworks. So other point is app versioning. Okay, app versioning means we can create one application and we can also work on other applications. So this means we can run simultaneously multiple versions of the applications with ASP.NET Core. And the other one is smaller deployment footprints. So this means, let's say ASP.NET Core application runs this into a smaller than whatever we are using previously .NET frameworks. So deployment will be quick, this means. Okay, so this uses .NET Core FX. So this will give you the smaller deployment size. This means deployment in whatever platform you are doing, okay, this can be done with very quick because of its size. So these are some of the characteristics. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is all about the .NET Core. Okay. So next one, compilation and execution of .NET application. I guess some of the few things we have already covered in the unit 1 as well. So how you compile, how you execute. So these are the terms: CLR, CLI, okay, MSIL, GIT. So whatever you are doing, let's say with the basic C# programs, so they will include some common runtime, which is referred as CLR. Okay, so this CLR, they will work on your execution and development environment. Let's say your programming language can be C#, VB.NET, J#, F#, whatever. So with each of these programming languages, they have their own compiler. So let's say your source code you have written in C#, they will be worked on with your C# compiler. Okay. So after this, they will be converted into one intermediate language, which is called Microsoft Intermediate Language, or simply MSIL, or simply IS. So they will conform, or they will match one standard, which is called CLI specification. Okay. So this IL code, this should be interacted with your JIT compiler, or you can refer as this a JIT interpreter. So this will be converted by JIT compilation, then only you get machine code or the executable code. So another one, this CLR, they will provide other services related to automatic garbage collection, exception handling, and resource management. So another one, whatever code that is executed by CLR, they can be referred as managed code. Okay. So some other feature for this .NET is language interoperability. So this one they referred as a key feature of their .NET framework. So it's because see they produce intermediate language code when you compile by C# compiler or the VB.NET compiler or F# compiler. So all of these, whatever they produce, this IL, they should meet this common type specification, which is referred as CTS. Okay. So this IL code, let's say generated from C#, that will be okay similar to whatever you produce with Visual Basic, VC++, or any of the programming language that they have created, that they have support. So with this, we can say this single assembly may contain multiple modules, okay, written in different .NET languages. And with this, okay, the types can refer to each other and can be written in the same languages as well. So this is about the compilation and execution of .NET application. So these are the key terms. One is CLI, okay, other is MSIL and CLR. So how then we are going to build, run, test, and deploy our .NET Core applications. Okay, previously we have referred to the build and run for the .NET framework. Now this time for the .NET Core application. So for the .NET Core application, if we refer to this command line interface, okay, CLI, so this is also you can refer as the new cross-platform tools. With this, we can either create, restore packages, and we can also build, run, and publish our applications. So Visual Studio, which is similar that we have referred with our .NET framework, they will use this CLI to restore, build, and publish the application that we develop with .NET Core. So we already have this, okay, .NET Core CLI installed with whatever we have selected on Visual Studio during installation. They will have .NET Core SDK platforms. So this means with Visual Studio now, if we have installed, we do not need to install them separately. Okay, some verification that will be done whether the CLI is installed properly by just opening the command prompt in Windows and just writing some command. Let's say .NET is the command. Also, we can just check. So with this, it will display something on your screen, whether it's installed or not. So this looks something like this. In your command prompt, you can just type this .NET and it will give you this help as well. Okay. -H, this is for the help. Okay. -- version, this is for the version. And it will give you the path to the application DLL file to execute. So let's see with how you create, how you run the Hello World application just with the command line or the terminal. So the first one is mkdir. So this is called make directory. Okay. Then HW app means Hello World app for the cert. Okay, we are writing. Then cd HW app Now we are entering change directory. Okay, previous one is make directory, and this one is change directory, and go to this folder or the directory. Then you can just provide another command, this as .NET new console. So with this, we are creating a new console application from the command line interface. Okay, so this will create hello world SW app console application in the current folder. So with this, whatever you found with the console application with your Visual Studio, the similar thing you'll get with this. Okay, so this is the two files you will find. One is program.cs, another is swapp, swapp.csproj, means CS project. Okay. So your program looks similar to the following listing. So namespace, okay, using system you will get, then namespace with whatever directory you have created, SW app, then public class program. Within this we have public static void main string arguments. And so within this you can write console.writeLine hello app. Okay. So once you create this, it's time to run your application. So with .NET Core, we are using this .NET Core SDK. Okay, so this will help you to build and run your application. So while running this, you need to trigger this command, being on your command prompt. .NET run is the command. Okay, .NET run will give you whatever you have written in your console application. Okay. So this is the end of unit 2. Now we will also move on to unit 3. So if you have any queries, we can still discuss on this.
त्यो माथिको त्यो उथ्यो नि सिआलआईहरू
हजुर,
एमएस आइएलहरू एकचोटि फेरि भनिदिनु
दिस आर जस्ट अ की टर्म्स है। यसमा अब यो यिनीहरूले पर्टिकुलर यिनीहरूले के गर्छ भनेर बुझ्यो भने पुग्छ। सो दिस वान राइट, यो चाहिँ दिस वान है।
यस सर यस।
सो वेन एभर हामी कम्पाइल कसरी हुन्छ हामीले बनाएको प्रोग्राम अथवा चाहिँ कसरी एक्जिक्युट गर्छ भनेर चाहिँ बुझ्नु पर्यो भने नि, सो दिज आर द टर्म्स कि सिएलआई भनेको चाहिँ कमन ल्याङ्ग्वेज इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चर यु क्यान से, अथवा कमन टाइप सिस्टम इज सिटिएस। जुनसुकै कम्पाइलरले मैले रन गरौँ अथवा जुनसुकै कोडलाई, दे विल ह्याभ देयर ओन कम्पाइलर। सी शार्पको आफ्नै कम्पाइलर हुन्छ, सी शार्प कम्पाइलर, बिबी डट नेटको आफ्नै कम्पाइलर, बिबी डट नेट कम्पाइलर भनेर हुन्छ। मैले त्यसरी चाहिँ कम्पाइल गरिसकेपछि एउटा मैले इन्टरमिडिएट कोड चाहिँ जेनेरेट हुन्छ भने बुझ्नु पर्यो नि, अथवा त्यो कम्पाइलरले चाहिँ इन्टरमिडिएट कोड जेनेरेट गर्छ, चाहे त्यो सी शार्पको कम्पाइलरले गरोस् अथवा चाहिँ बिबी डट नेटको कम्पाइलरले चाहिँ गरोस् है। सो द्याट कोड इज कल्ड माइक्रोसफ्ट इन्टरमिडिएट ल्याङ्ग्वेज। एकैछिन है। ओके, सो दिस वान चाहिँ सिएलआई भनेको चाहिँ कमन ल्याङ्ग्वेज इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चरमा चाहिँ we need to get something on this with CLI. So after this, we'll get Microsoft Intermediate Language. Then this one is also need to be interacted with CLR, common language runtime ले चाहिँ execute गर्नुपर्छ। For this common language runtime, CLR मा चाहिँ JIT compiler ले चाहिँ काम गर्छ भन्ने बुझ्नु पर्यो। So ultimately JIT ले चाहिँ आइएल कोडलाई चाहिँ इन्टरप्रेट गर्छ र एक्जिक्युट गरेर चाहिँ उसले चाहिँ मिसन कोड चाहिँ निकाल्छ कि। सो सिएलआरको फङ्सन भनेको बिसाइड्स दिस उसले चाहिँ अरू कुरा पनि गर्न सक्छ। द्याट अरू कुरा भनेको चाहिँ सो गार्बेज कलेक्सन भयो, अटोमेटिक गार्बेज कलेक्सन। जस्तै हामीले अब्जेक्टहरू बनाइरहेको होला, भेरिएबलहरू बनाइरहेको होला होइन, जस्तै अब्जेक्ट्सहरूमा डेटाहरू ल्याइरहेको होला। लेट्स चाहिँ मैले डेटाबेससँग इन्ट्र्याक्ट गरेर डेटाहरू ल्याएर मेमोरीमा त मैले राखिरहेको हुन्छु नि त होइन। लेट्स चाहिँ त्यो डेटाहरू पनि मैले क्लिनअप गरिनँ भनेदेखि पनि उसले चाहिँ मेमोरीमा भएको नचाहिने डेटा छ भनेदेखि त्यो पनि उसले चाहिँ वाइप आउट गर्दै जान्छ। सो दिस इज कल्ड अटोमेटिक गार्बेज कलेक्सन। नेक्स्ट वान भनेको एक्सेप्सन ह्यान्डलिङ गर्ने। रिसोर्स म्यानेज गर्ने कुराहरू सबै चाहिँ CLR-ले चाहिँ इट विल डु, यसरी चाहिँ बुझ्नु पर्यो है। क्लियर भयो? So with this, unit 2 चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ कन्क्लुड गर्यौँ है। अब नेक्स्ट वान इज अबाउट युनिट थर्ड। युनिट थर्ड भनेको त अब HTTP रेस्पोन्स, रिक्वेस्ट रेस्पोन्स भनेको के हो भन्ने बुझ्ने हो, मोर अन कन्सेप्चुअल थिङ्स। सो हियर वी विल अल्सो कन्सिडर .NET कोरलाई चाहिँ कन्सिडर गरेर कसरी रिक्वेस्ट HTTP रिक्वेस्ट पठाउँछ, कसरी रेस्पोन्स आउँछ, इन सर्भर लेभलमा चाहिँ के हुन्छ भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ वी विल सी on unit third. I think it's better we also go with unit third as well. Okay, unit third is also ready here. So what do you know about HTTP service? How you consider HTTP service? So HTTP भनेको you can also refer from other thing as well. Okay, not exactly अब .NET मै यस्तो हुनुपर्छ भन्ने पनि छैन. So how do you consider this? So whatever request you are sending through your browser, is that your HTTP request, right? So this is simple. So whatever you are sending request from your mobile application, is that your HTTP request? What do you think? HTTP request हो। मैले चाहिँ लेट्स से फेसबुक चलाइरहेको छु, फेसबुक चलाउँदाखेरि केही कुरा मैले क्लिक गर्छु, केही कुरा मैले पोस्ट गर्छु भने त्यो HTTP रिक्वेस्ट हो कि हैन होला? मैले कुनै भिडियो रिक्वेस्ट अथवा भिडियो सर्च गर्छु युट्युबमा भन्ने, इज दैट योर HTTP रिक्वेस्ट?
Yes.
Right. So all of the things, most of the actions, it's better, okay, that you do with your mobile or your mobile apps. So everything is your HTTP request. Maybe for that we are sending request to their web APIs. Okay. So in some cases जस्तै कस्तो पनि हुन सक्छ भन्दाखेरि मैले वेब एपीआई को लागि चाहिँ ठुल्ठुलो एप्लिकेसनमा चाहिँ उले एपीआई छुट्टै सर्भरमा होस्ट गरेको पनि हुन सक्छ कि ट्राफिक अथवा चाहिँ मैले लोड ब्यालेन्सिङ गर्नको लागि पनि अब त्यसरी चाहिँ म्यानेज चाहिँ गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ कि सो व्हाट डु यु थिंक सर्भरहरु चाहिँ कस्तो युज गरिरहेको होला त फेसबुक अथवा युट्युबहरुले चाहिँ हैन एउटै ठाउँ एउटै सेन्ट्रलबाट मात्रै सर्भ गर्छ होला त
गर्दैन
billions of users they are connecting, they are okay interacting on their server. This means उले कुनै न कुनै वेबाट लोड ब्यालेन्स गर्ने कुरा maybe in server as well, maybe in their application as well, they might have done, right? Through user base like उले support गर्नु छ भने they need to consider these things, okay? So for the unit 3, we will see with HTTP and ASP.NET Core. So let's go with the HTTP first. So HTTP request, see, is simply you are sending your request to any of the web server, you can say. Okay, whatever. Let's say you just type example.com, okay, some domain name.com being on your website browser. That request goes to that particular server, okay, for that domain you have hosted. So on that server, it quickly looks for the file, the default file, you can say, the index file. Okay. So if that they find, for the static website, it's simple. So it just searches for the page and it sends back the page. So which is fine. For the dynamic pages or the dynamic web applications, some processing needs to be done on the server level as well. So that processing can be either okay, checking for the files, that can be either working with your database table, okay, some processing, some data they need to process, and that will be presented on your page. So that's how HTTP request and response they will work. So here we will see the relationship between this ASP.NET Core, ASP.NET, okay, .NET Core, .NET Framework, these things, and how okay they run on the cross-platform as well. So at the top we have a web framework, okay, web framework we can refer as ASP.NET, ASP.NET MVC, and this ASP.NET Core. So this core runs on this .NET Core or the .NET Framework. For the ASP.NET, they will run on this .NET Framework only. Okay, so we have presented this .NET platform. This can be either .NET Core or .NET Framework. So for the similar application, you need the similar framework or the similar core applications. So these are the .NET platform. So this generally sits on top of your operating system. So .NET Framework, they can only work with the Windows platform. For this .NET Core, they can work on with any of the OS, see, Windows, Linux, Mac. So this means they run on multiple platforms. So this is the general structure for your ASP.NET Core and .NET Framework. So now let's go in detail about this .NET Core application model. So let's consider just a simple application, ASP.NET Core console application. Okay, how they will be executed. So whatever we have written program, let's say with .NET Core console we are writing. So this means this will start some instance of the .NET Core web server. Let's say for the ASP.NET, we will have this web server. For now, we just refer as the local IIS Express engine for the ASP.NET. So for this, as a web server, ASP.NET Core Castrol. So this is the new thing introduced with ASP.NET Core. Okay. So after this, we will go with the web application logics. So this logic can be either logging, static files, configuration, or the HTML generation. So this thing, okay, maybe they interact with various library files. So on the basis of this, it will do some processing and it will generate some page content, you can say. So that will be sent back to the requesting user or the browser. Okay, so this is the basic ASP.NET Core application model. So with this, now we are interested with how HTTP web requests work. As a user, okay, we send a request for the web page, just entering something on your browser. Okay, maybe you will send request from other application as well. So this request, so it goes to the server. Okay. So this server, see, browser sends HTTP request to the server. So this will do some processing on the server. Okay. So then server interprets the request and it will check whether it needs to do further processing. On the basis of this, it will generate some page response or the HTTP response you can refer. Okay. So this thing. So this response, see, server sends HTML ultimate whatever content it will be rendered will be a HTML response. So this will be sent as the HTTP response, and this will be sent to the requesting browser or the requesting user. Okay. So this thing, this content, whatever as HTTP response, this will be rendered on your browser for the user. Okay. So this is how we request HTTP request, and we will get HTTP response. So this is all the description for the HTTP web request. So when we just go point by point, okay, user first send a request for the web page, so which is generally a HTTP request, okay. Then this will be interpreted. This request will be checked by your server, and it will generate some page, okay, that can be HTML page, and that can be whatever page. The content you can find is just a HTML once it renders on the browser, okay. Then it is sent back as an HTTP response. So this is what exactly your browser displays, okay. So depending on the request, your server will check whether this is for a web page, okay. Your response can be a web page with images, JavaScript file, CSS file, so this thing, or the simple acknowledgement. So with this, okay, user browser, they will get the HTTP response in form of the HTML page. Maybe that will get references of other page and link to other servers as well. So now let's see how does your ASP.NET Core process a request. First one is HTTP request, okay. They will send to the server, and see here server is your reverse proxy, okay. So you can find this reverse proxy. For this we can have IIS, NGINX, and Apache. So these are some of the servers, reverse proxy server you can refer. So this request will be passed on to this reverse proxy, okay. So this thing you can refer as the component you need to have to run your ASP.NET Core. So on the third step, see, this ASP.NET Core Web Server, they will receive, see, Core Web Server is your Castrol, okay. They will receive this request, and they will also need to pass on this to the middleware. Middleware is generally this ASP.NET Core infrastructure and the application logic. So as a whole, you can refer this as ASP.NET Core application. Okay, this means your application part, your logic part, whatever you have developed. So this thing will be passed on to, let's say, some specific logic part. Let's say, for example, let's say you have controller, the URL path. They will go on to that, and on the basis of whatever logic you have return, the further processing will be done. Okay, here you will process the particular request. Then on the basis of this, it will generate some response, and it is passed on to your middleware, okay. Through this middleware back to your web server, means your reverse proxy. So again, this will be forwarded to this as your HTTP response onto your requesting user's browser. So this is how the full cycle for ASP.NET Core request and response processing works. So this is fine.
सर मिडलवेयर त अथेन्टिकेसनको लागि युज हुन्छ हैन?
नट एक्ज्याक्टली चाहिँ मिडलवेयर भनेको चाहिँ कस्तो भन्दाखेरि मैले कुनै केही कुराहरू लेखेको छु भनेदेखि त्यसलाई चाहिँ मैले प्रोसेस गर्नको लागि कि मिडलवेयर भन्ने टर्ममा मात्र बुझ्दा पनि हुन्छ अहिलेको लागि। दिस टाइम यो एक्जाम्पलमा चाहिँ के त भन्दाखेरि मैले केही पार्ट, केही लजिकल कुराहरू चेक गराउनुको लागि चाहिँ मैले यहाँ चाहिँ अब एज अ कम्पोनेन्ट उसले चाहिँ देखाएको भयो कि मिडलवेयर क्यान बी अगेन यर सर्भर अदर एप्लिकेसन पनि हुनसक्छ है सो यसलाई चाहिँ उसले मिडलवेयर चाहिँ ASP.NET वेब सर्भरको क्यास्ट्रल र यो एप्लिकेसन लजिक जुन चेक गर्नु खोजेको छ त्यो पार्टलाई चाहिँ भनिरहेको छ है यो डायग्राम अनुसार चाहिँ त्यसरी बुझ्दा हुन्छ जस्तै कुनै कस्तो पनि हुनसक्छ भन्दाखेरि एप्लिकेसनको एन्डमा लोड ब्यालेन्सिङ गर्नुको लागि चाहिँ मिडलवेयरको थ्रुबाट राउटिङ गर्ने पनि भन्ने हो यु क्यान फाइन्ड है सो सिमिलर कन्सेप्टै हो यहाँ पनि एट द बटममा अल्टिमेटली हामीले गर्ने भनेको त जे रिक्वेस्ट पठाएको छ त्यसको प्रोसेसिङहरू गरेर त्यसलाई चाहिँ रिभर्स प्रक्सीमा पठाएर उसले फेरि रेस्पोन्स चाहिँ ब्राउजरमा पठाइरहेको छ है हामीले हेरिरहेको भनेको चाहिँ यो पार्ट भनेको चाहिँ सम एप्लिकेसन लजिक भनेको त हामीले नै लेख्ने कुरा हो नि यो त होइन जेनरली सर्भर भनेको चाहिँ अब इट्स फर द प्रोसेसिङ हामीले जे कुरा लेखेर सर्भरमा चाहिँ वेब सर्भरमा डिप्लोय त हामी गर्छौँ नि होइन वेब सर्भरले रिक्वेस्ट लिइकन हाम्रो एप्लिकेसन लजिकमा के छ त्यो कुराहरू चेक गरिकन त्यसलाई चाहिँ फेरि चाहिँ पठाउने हो कि ओके ठिक छ है So this is some description for you, okay, what exactly they will do. So as a key point, I have mentioned first request from the browser. It goes to the reverse proxy, and this will pass on to your ASP.NET Core application. So this one you can refer as the middleware, okay. So next, it will request the process pass on to the body of the application. Body of application can be, let's say मैले कुनै URL बाट दिएको छु भने त्यसभित्र मैले एक्सन मेथडहरू त लेखेको हुन्छ नि त फर इक्जाम्पल लास्ट टाइम हामीले हेरेको चाहिँ कन्ट्रोलर एक्सन मेथड भन्ने थियो त्यो कन्ट्रोलर हुँदै एक्सन मेथडमा मैले जे कुरा मेरो एप्लिकेसन लजिक अथवा प्रोसेसिङ लजिक लेखेको छु त्यो काम गर्छ on the basis of this उसले चाहिँ केही कुरा डेटा रिटर्न गर्नुपर्ने गर्छ that will be pass on to your reverse proxy your web server release this to the reverse proxy भनेको छ this means यो पाथबाट चाहिँ उसले रेस्पोन्स चाहिँ ब्राउजरलाई दिन्छ भन्न खोजेको कि नेक्स्ट वान अर्को अब रिभर्स प्रक्सीको if you just want to find some benefit okay so it will create one security layer भनेर बुझ्दा पनि हुन्छ so that you can also get protected from the potential threats from your internet okay so additionally it will also help you restarting the process if they crashed so these are some of the important key points I have mentioned for this ASP.NET Core process. Okay, after this, we'll see for the common web application architectures. So one is a monolithic application, other is all-in-one application. Okay, layered architecture. Some of these key terms are known to you. Okay, another is a traditional n-layer architecture application and the clean architecture. So these 5 forms and some of them are related as well. Points and password so we will see for each of these architecture with its benefit and pros and cons we will see for each of the applications. First one we go with this monolithic application. Okay, so monolithic means mono means one or the single you can refer. Okay, everything if you have within one or the self content then those type of application you will refer as a monolithic application. So this application you generally develop with this you can interact with other services or data stores that you have okay so on this you will perform some operations and they can also be deployed as a single unit so this is the thing with monolithic application. So in such application, we need to think for the scalability as it's horizontally. Generally, you'll find them as horizontal part of application. So this means entire application is duplicated in multiple servers or the virtual machines as well. Okay. So next one is all-in-one application. So all-in-one application, say whatever you have created your project, either it's a web application, web forms, or the ASP.NET MVCs, you can refer this as all-in-one application. Okay. So they will contain everything: the behavior of the application, the presentation of the application, your business logic, or the data access logic as well. So when we just refer this type of application, we can find, let's say, when we consider MVC pattern, we will find your data access logic within the model part, and you can have your business logic on the controller part, and you can have your presentation logic or the presentation content on your view part. So with this also, you can have additional folders for your data and other services as well. So for this, I have presented one diagram for a single project, all-in-one application. So this is just a screenshot. Okay. So for the monolithic, or you can say all-in-one application, so we have C data folder. So this is for the data access logic, and next one is your model. So this is for the model folders. You can have the CS files, and others for the application services. We can create folder as services. And next one is for the presentation layer. We can have view folder and other folders, subfolders within this folder. And for the application interpoint and configuration, these are the files. Okay, app settings, this bower, and or the program.cs. So this thing you can find on a single application. Okay. So with this diagram, we can find these things: the view folder, the data access implementation things, the business logic files folders with services and other module class folders. So we can find one disadvantages with this single project monolithic project solution. Okay. So one thing is, we are talking about the architecture. Okay, we can still think different, and we can also modify them as per our need. So when we just straightforward, we go straightforward and just think for this monolithic solution. Some of the disadvantages we can just point out as: when your project size goes up or the complexity grow, the number of files folders, they will also grow. Okay. So with this, okay, user interfaces, you can have multiple folders. So this need to be grouped. Okay. So in that case, we'll find some difficulty over here. Next one is with business logic. Business logics, they are also scattered over here: models, service folders, and others. So for that also, we need to go with some clear indication for each of these classes that we have written for each of these folders. So this means lack of organization at the project level we can find. Okay. So next issue is whenever application evolve into multi-project solution. So this means if you want to resolve this issue, we can go with multi-project solution. We can create different layers of project, you can say, or you can simply refer as n layer structure. Okay. So with this disadvantages, now we would like to talk more on this layered architecture. So layered architecture, you can find this as one solution over your monolithic single application architecture. So with this, okay, whenever our code or the project it goes up, okay, we can need to organize them properly, so that their functionalities can be implemented much better. So with the layered architecture, we can find advantages over just over this code organization. Okay, we can also organize our code into more layers. So this will give us more functionality and reuse of our whatever code we have written throughout the application. So with this layer architecture, it also infers on the restriction of which layer to communicate with other layers. Means, let's say you have layer 1, 2, 3. Now this point talks about the dependencies of the layer. Let's say layer 1 communicates with layer 2, and layer 2 only communicates with layer 3. So this thing we can implement with the n-layer architecture structure. So this means you will have a very a good impact on individual functionality of each layers. So a very basic n-layer architecture application diagram I have presented you. Let's say user interface is one layer. Okay, business logic, this can be another layer, and data access can be another layer. So this is the traditional n-layer architecture that we can find with yeah, software or the application architecture. So just a basic description on this. Okay, we have 3 layers, UI, business, and data. For each of this, we are now describing. So let's say on these 3 layers, one is data UI layer. Okay, UI is the user interface, BL is the business logic layer, and DL is the data access layer. So using this architecture, we can segregate this. Okay, so user sending the request, they will come through a UI layer, and this UL layer, they need to interact with the second layer, that is your business layer, and business layer in turn they will interact with the DL, that is your data access layer. So this, let's say 3 layers we have created for the end layer architecture. So this means their functionality is different. Okay, only one layer they are working with another layer, so their dependency is also clearly defined. So this way it will be really easy to test your business logic following this architecture. Okay, so this is one example. See, we have application core, we have infrastructure, and we can also have, so this one in Visual Studio, we have one solution, see. So these are the project. One is application core. This is the project or the component model defined for business or the application model. So infrastructure, this is for the data access logic or the data access layer you can refer. Next one is the web, see, another layer. So this is your presentation logic, and within this we also have the automated test. So this figure, this shows you a simple example for the 3 project or the 3 layer architecture. Okay, so this way we can go on with n layer architecture. So anything on this? केही छ भने सोधौँ है. We are just going on with more of the conceptual thing. के छ, बुझिरहेको छ कि अथवा चाहिँ कन्सेप्चुअल कुराहरू मात्र आएर चाहिँ अलिकति बोर भइरहेछ कि? ओके पुकार,
बुझिरहेको छ,
बुझिरहेछ है. सिम्पल कुराहरू नै छ यसमा, धेरै वर्ड्सहरू चाहिँ देखेर चाहिँ मेबी हुन सक्छ है. सो बेटर डायग्रामबाट मैले इलिस्ट्रेट गरिरहेको छु. ओके, so next one is the clean architecture. So clean architecture, okay, they will follow dependency inversion principle भनेको चाहिँ अब लेयरमा हामीले कुरा गरे जस्तै किसिमले हैन. So this one, domain-driven design, you can also refer. This is the new term, right? So this one is referred as the clean architecture or simply onion architecture. Now this time you will find layer on top of family here. They got it. In some circle or the onion structure, you will find some diagram. Okay. So with this clean architecture, they will put business logic, application logic, this thing at the center. Organization layer ma छुटाएको थियो भने अब this business logic र application model लाई चाहिँ अब you will find them in at the center of your application. So instead of this business logic dependency on your data access and other infrastructure concern, so this is inverted. Reverse uta petago bhanda pani this is something inverted, and your infrastructure and implementation details. So this thing all depends on your application core. So next one, how we can achieve this? So this can be with your abstraction or the interfaces that you created on your application core. So let's see how this will look with the example. See, this is a clean architecture layer or the onion view. Multiple layers ma onion structure ma it has referred this as onion view. See, you will have user interface. User interface can be through either controller, view models, present other is the application core. Application core ma interface entities or domain services. So these are within your application core. And other infrastructure interfaces, implementation services okay. So this means abstraction, abstract classes of interfaces. So they will come under this. Okay, infrastructures and others dependency data stores interact गर्ने कुरा चाहिँ यतापट्टि सानो एउटा डायग्राममा SQL, email, then cloud मा चाहिँ interact गर्ने कुराहरु चाहिँ यसले बाहिर चाहिँ देखाइदिन्छ. So this is how the clean architecture or the layer business logic र data सँग interact गर्ने कुरा चाहिँ so everything is on the application core भनेर यसरी चाहिँ देखाउन खोजेको हो. So referring to this diagram, okay, dependency flows towards the innermost circle अथवा जति पनि data सँग अथवा business logic सँग related कुराहरु छ सबै further processing सबै चाहिँ application core भित्र चाहिँ हुन्छ भनेर चाहिँ बुझ्नु पर्यो कि. This means there is no dependencies over your layers, right? So at the center we find application entities, interface, everything on the application core. So still outside of the application core, we have UI infrastructure layers, so which we have found in this example. Okay, at the top layer you can say user interface and infrastructures. So this one. After this, one more thing, clean architecture layer, we can also go with this user interface, infrastructure, application core भनेर राखेको छ. Infrastructure भनेको पनि मैले data कुन structure मा हुन्छ, you can simply refer like this. Okay, directly चाहिँ उनले चाहिँ user interface बाट पनि application core मै चाहिँ interact गरेर आएको छ. Some data structure or the infrastructure, they will also directly concerned with the application core. Okay, test मैले केही टेस्ट केसेसहरु लेखेर टेस्टिङ गर्नु पर्यो भन्दाखेरि पनि टेस्टले पनि एप्लिकेसन कोरमा चाहिँ पोइन्ट आउट गरेको देखाइरहेको छ. So everything processing overload is taken by a application core भनेर चाहिँ बुझ्नु पर्यो क्लीन आर्किटेक्चरको कन्टेक्स्टमा चाहिँ. So at the top arrow पनि उले डिफाइन गरिरहेको छ चाहिँ. So the solid arrow is for the compile time dependency and this one is for the optional compile time dependency भनेर चाहिँ देखाइरहेको छ. So with all these, okay, architectures, the type of architectures, now we are moving on with ASP.NET Core architecture overview. ओके मतलब अब .NET कोरको आर्किटेक्चर चाहिँ अब कसरी लान सकिन्छ अथवा चाहिँ conceptual word exactly is this. We are just going through this. So with this .NET Core application or the architecture, whatever you refer, okay, they laid down your web logic, infrastructure, core components. So when you create the project, this is structured in your created project. So this concept you can refer as N tier or the layer architecture. Okay, by default they will give you that folder structure. This means. So now we do not need to think of do not need to think more on this. We can work more on the logic part, right? So with this, we can have main business logic, UI logic, and it's all encapsulated within the .NET Core web app layer. Okay. So with this, we can find a data access layer, cache services, web API services. So those are within your infrastructure layer. And common utilities, object interfaces, reusable business services, they are encapsulated with the microservices in the application core layer. अघि नै हामीले जुन लेयरको कुरा गर्दै आएको छ त्यसकै सपोर्टिभमा .NET Core architecture they have already provided you भन्ने चाहिँ उसले डिफाइन गर्नु खोजेको भयो. So with this core, we have already predefined N-tier or layer architecture. So it's really good for the developers. Okay, this means it will save our time and effort. We do not need to think for the complexity of the layers and the architectures on the web project. So this means we can focus more on our business logic. एप्लिकेसनले चाहिँ के गराउने त्यो लजिकमा मात्रै हामीले चाहिँ हेर्दा चाहिँ भयो भन्न खोजेको. So with this, we will have one benefit as we already get pre-built architectural framework with this project. And still, see, we can also work on with the other thing like SPA, single page application design patterns. So यो कुरा पनि यहाँ बनाउनु मिल्छ है, single page design application बनाउने अथवा MVC, this already they are following the structure. So next one is traditional MVC also they will offer you. So next one, next benefit is about the hybrid development. Okay, this means you can develop one thing on one structure and another on other structure. Still, they can be reused. So this is the ASP.NET Core architecture, and this is showing you the component as well. Okay. So N layers you can find as ASP.NET Core web application. So within this core web app, we have controller, view models, view, response caching filter, model validation filter, and other filters as well. Okay, so with this in ASP.NET Core, these are the components. So they will interact with say either infrastructure project or the application core project. So within your application core project, we have data-सँग interact गर्ने कुराहरू नै धेरै छ यहाँ. Say one is interface, other is your entities, POCO entities, other is business services, domain events, aggregate specification. This thing all come under this application core project or the second layer you can say. So with this grade arrow, okay, grayscaled, you can say dashed arrow, compile time dependency and runtime dependencies are also shown you with the arrows. Okay. So next one is the infrastructure project. With infrastructure project, we can have this in-memory data caching, EF, core, DB context, Redis, this cache services, Azure services. So this thing, see, even in context of the implementation or the on deployment things, so this is well managed with the infrastructure project or the infrastructure layer. So this will interact with your data sources or the third party or the services as well. So this is ASP.NET Core architecture or the structure you can say. So with this, we already have the MVC structure, okay, the architecture. They will offer you this design pattern. So MVC, when we just refer, it has been almost a decade. This technology or this design pattern was introduced. Okay, you can refer this as one of the most popular till this current date. So user or the developer, they will find easy to separate their files on different layers or the different component, you can say. So in larger application, it's always better to go on with this MVC design pattern so that you can have your data processing on some part, your presentation on view part, and your logic on the controller part. So with this, we can go very much better for the full stack development with this MVC design pattern. So something more on this, okay? So 3 parts or the 3 components that we can find on this MVC design pattern. One is a model. So model, it's generally a set of classes that we can use to describe or work on with the data that we'll need on our business logic as well. Next one, view. This is generally the application UI layer or the interfaces. So with views, we are just presenting the HTML part, and this controller or this decides which data how you want to render them. Okay, so this thing will be defined on your view part. Next one is the controller. Controller means it's a set of classes that is used to handle your data flow or the application flow or your business application logic. So this thing, each one of this have their own role responsibility on your application. So why this MVC is introduced and what is the main idea behind this MVC? Very short on this, okay? So the basic thing is a separation of your user interface and your application layer. This view, okay, this generally talks to the model. So this keyword I have presented you means from the model. Model is just a data structure or the business data logic you can refer. So on a view page, you can load your data structure. Okay, you can load your data, so which needs to be displayed on your pages. Maybe some data you need to carry out from this view pages to your database. For that, you need to go through the controller. Okay. Next one is, say, something in form of HTML data or HTML form components. You need to show them. Maybe you can also have templates, the design templates with CSS and even your JS things. You can have this on your view pages. Next one is the controller. Okay, so most of the thing is done by this controller. So this does everything from the HTTP request, okay, to processing, and even working with your databases, data processing things, even with the models also. They will load file systems and other model also, they will work. So everything, every load that will be beared by this controller. So I have presented you with one very basic diagram. Okay, controller, view, model. Controller can work with your view. Okay, this means controller can send data to the view. Similarly, controller can also access model. Similarly, in this case, view also can access the structure from the model or the data from the model as well. So this is how they will work. And next one is another diagram: controller, model, view. So let's say you entered /book root path, you can say. So when you just go with the books is your controller, okay? Maybe you will have some method over there. Maybe it's calling index, maybe it's calling add, edit, delete, details, whatever. So it goes on through the controller. Then it'll check for the model, the data structures, okay? The data that you want to process. Then on the basis of this, okay, once it gets data from the controller, it will be rendered to the view pages. Okay, those data you need to send them to the view, and that will be rendered on your browser in form of your HTML or the response page. So this is the idea or the basic concept behind MVC. So something on this projects and convention in your Visual Studio. I have considered one example, my first core application. So this is the project, okay? So at the top is your solution with the same name, my first core app. This solution, it has one project as my first core app. Similarly, solution folder view, if you just want to go with, there is an icon that I have highlighted in this red rectangle. So with this, when you click on this, we'll get the folder structure for this solution or the project, you can say. So in this project, you will find one cs.csproj. Hello, मलाई सुनिरहेछ है?
सुनिरहेको छ सर।
आज चाहिँ मै मात्र बोलेको जस्तो भइरहेछ है?
हजुर सर।
ओके, स्टिल फाइन। युनिट 3 को पनि अलमोस्ट धेरै कुरा हामीले कभर गर्दैछौँ है आजको यही क्लासमा पनि। सो दिस वान इज CS प्रोजेक्ट भनेको C# प्रोजेक्ट भन्न खोजेको है। सो दिस फाइल यु क्यान फाइन्ड। सो फर दिस जस्ट राइट क्लिक अन दिस है, यहाँ मैले इन्स्ट्रक्सन सानो एउटा लेखिदिएको छु। राइट क्लिक अन द प्रोजेक्ट, गो टु एडिट my project. So this one, okay, edit my project core app भन्ने .csproj भनेर चाहिँ देखाएको छ। You can just find with this, okay, just right click on this. So with this we'll find some code structure like this. Project SDK equals to certain your tag structure format मा चाहिँ देखिरहेको छ. So you can refer this as some configuration file. Okay, target group, target framework कुन हो, .NET Core API, .NET Core app 3.1 मैले चाहिँ पिक्चर लिँदाखेरि 2.1 को लिएँ, which is fine है। आफूले यसरी राइट क्लिक गरेर हेर्दाखेरि आफ्नो युज भएको फ्रेमवर्क कुन हो त्यो अलरेडी देखिन्छ। देन आइटम ग्रुप फोल्डर इन्क्लुड गरेर www root भनेर अब यसरी जनरल उसमा भएको कुराहरु नै देखाइन्छ। So this is what you will find with CS PROJ structure. Okay, it will also include the settings related to targeted framework भनेको यहाँ target framework भन्ने ट्याग आएको छ। यहाँ भित्र चाहिँ टार्गेट चाहिँ 2.1 को लागि हो भनेर चाहिँ बुझिन्छ। अर्को चाहिँ अब प्रोजेक्ट फोल्डर्स, प्रोजेक्ट ग्रुप्स, अब यसरी चाहिँ और नुगेट प्याकेजहरुको रेफरेन्सेस या प्याकेजहरुको रेफरेन्सेस पनि देखाएको छ। So this thing will be presented to you as a part of projects and conventions. नेक्स्ट वान भनेको चाहिँ डिपेन्डेन्सिज कुन कुन प्याकेजेसहरु उसले युज गरिरहेको छ, नुगेटबाट कुन ल्याएको छ है, एसटीके चाहिँ कुन कुन युज गरिरहेको छ भन्ने कुरा we can find this on dependencies. This is also a part of your project, right? So dependencies in ASP.NET Core project, so they will contain NuGet packages, which is shown to you in this diagram. Dependencies, if you still want to check, say यो कहाँबाट आइरहेको छ भन्ने कुरा हेर्न मन छ भने पनि just right click on this, okay, and you will see the NuGet packages. यहाँ NuGet भनेर चाहिँ देखाइरहेको छ। यहाँ भित्र यसलाई अझ मैले एक्सपान्ड गरे भने पनि उले इन्स्टल गरिरहेको प्याकेजेसहरु चाहिँ देखिन्छ सो इट हेज इन्स्टल 3 प्याकेजेस भनेर अब यही कुरा चाहिँ लिस्ट गरिरहेको छ माथि चाहिँ माइक्रोसफ्ट ASP.NET Core.app छ एउटा सो दिस इज फर द वेब एप्लिकेसन सिम्पली है यो प्याकेज केको लागि युज हुन्छ भन्ने कुरा थाहा पायो भनेदेखि चाहिँ राम्रो सो दिस इज बाई माइक्रोसफ्ट एन्ड दिस इज द भर्जन भनेर V2.1.1 भर्जन पनि यु क्यान चेक एन्ड दिस इज अल्सो प्रेजेन्टेड टु यु इन दिस प्रोजेक्ट एज वेल नेक्स्ट वान चाहिँ ASP.NET Core.razor.design भन्ने यहाँ छ सो दिस इज फर द रेजर भ्यू इन्जिन्सहरूको लागि चाहिँ यो चाहिँ प्याकेज चाहिँ उनले चाहिँ इन्क्लुड गर्छ सो दिस विल बाई डिफल्ट है यो एक्स्ट्रा केही चाहियो भनेदेखि मात्र हामी प्याकेज म्यानेजर प्याकेज कन्सोलमा गएर चाहिँ एड अन चाहिँ गर्ने हो हामीले नेक्स्ट वान इज माइक्रोसफ्ट नेट कोर.एप भन्ने छ नेट कोर.एप इज दिस वान सो दिस इज फर द .NET कोर API को लागि चाहिँ यो चाहिँ युज भइरहेछ ओके नेक्स्ट वान अब एउटा प्रोपर्टिज दिस इज अल्सो on your projects and conventions this properties nodes this one है properties अघि नै dependencies हेर्यौं हामीले अब properties मा चाहिँ हेरिरहेको छौं properties भित्र चाहिँ you will find one file as launch setting.json भनेर चाहिँ फाइल देखाएको छ प्रोजेक्ट लन्च गर्दाखेरि विन्डोज अथेन्टिकेसन के छ आइएस को सेटिङ के छ भनेर देखाएको भयो विन्डोज अथेन्टिकेसन इज फल्स एनोनिमस अथेन्टिकेसन इज ट्रू आइएस एक्सप्रेसमा चाहिँ एप्लिकेसन युआरएल चाहिँ मैले यो प्रोजेक्टलाई रन गर्ने बेलामा चाहिँ मेरो पोर्ट नम्बर चाहिँ लोकल होस्ट कोलन यति गरेर चाहिँ रन हुने भयो यो चाहिँ देखाएको भयो सम अफ द प्रोफाइल्स माई कन्सोल कोर एपको कमान्ड नेम के छ लन्चर ब्राउजर के छ हैन सो दिस थिङ इज प्रेजेन्टेड टु यु on your properties within this properties launch setting हेरिरहेको भयो हामीले चाहिँ so with this we come to end of this chapter right so one thing मैले अहिले यसलाई चाहिँ अब यो चाहिँ अब इट्स सिमिलर ASP.NET र ASP.NET MVC भनेको के हो भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ मैले चाहिँ स्किप गरेँ so some topics मैले अब यसरी चाहिँ लगिरहेको हुन्छु so this is for you to find so on the basis of whatever we have covered I think you can find for this ASP.NET or ASP.NET MVC differences के छ okay so up to here we have covered unit 3 as well you can go on with topic by topic right for whatever I have presented so unit 4 now this is more on your ASP.NET Core अब यहाँबाट चाहिँ ASP.NET Core मा चाहिँ काम गर्ने चाहिँ सुरु हुन्छ with this each of this topic we will need to do some task okay one by one so after this it's working with your database okay database ma pani through different way we will do one is with ADO.NET entity framework and different ORM model or we will check and work with your database table so each of this so more work we will have to do on this ASP.NET Core MVC application database thing state management this is simple with some few codes we can manage to go on with the states so client development this will be really easy some very basic examples of this thing can be reviewed on JavaScript, jQuery, forms and validation. These are simple page applications and queue. So with a very basic example, we will go on with this. Okay. Securing. So this is really important. Application secure you can find this on your unit 8. And the last one is about the hosting. Your application is fine-tuned when you just think of on level of security as well okay then it's a time to host your application so this is how we can okay go on with the topics यहाँ सम्म केही छ आज चाहिँ अलिकति स्पिड अप भएको फिल भयो क्या फेरि हेलो
हजुर सर
आज चाहिँ स्पिड अप भएको फिल भयो कि अथवा केही छ
अब एकचोटि आफूले पनि हेर्नुपर्छ सर
एकचोटि हेरौँ अनि केही कुरा छ भने फेरि सोधौँ है So most of the things are conceptual things है अब नेक्स्ट क्लासबाट चाहिँ we have more things to do भनेर चाहिँ बुझ्नु पर्यो अब एकचोटि हेरिराखौँ अब कसैले चाहिँ मोबाइल एपमा चाहिँ राखेर हेर्नु गरेको छ कि छैन आई डोन्ट नो है अब आफ्नो लर्निङ चाहिँ अब कस्तो छ आफ्नै स्टाइलको हुन्छ होइन इट्स बेटर मोबाइल एप एउटा डाउनलोड गर्ने एमबिसी कोरको चाहिँ हेरिराख्ने त्यसरी गर्दा चाहिँ राम्रो हुन्छ है ल So this thing now it will be simple यहाँसम्म कन्ट्रोलर बनाउने एक्सन बनाउने यो कुराहरू हामीले चाहिँ लास्ट टाइमको क्लासमा पनि गरि नै सकेका छ है अघि न चाहिँ लेयर आर्किटेक्चरको हामीले कुरा पनि गर्यौँ केही कुरा म देखाइ पनि दिन्छु ल जस्तै कस्तो हुन्छ भनेर फ्रम वान अफ आवर प्रोजेक्ट आई क्यान सो यु है लेयरमा बुझौँ है भित्र के छ कस्तो छ भन्दा पनि ए के गरेँ मैले So these are the layers you can find say वेब एमबिसी वेब एपिआई होइन टेस्ट इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चर कोर भनेर चाहिँ बनाइरहेको छ है सिम्पली आफूहरूले प्रोजेक्ट एउटा बनाउँदाखेरि चाहिँ एमबिसीको प्रोजेक्ट मात्रै हुन्छ होइन यहाँ अब एन लेयर आर्किटेक्चरमा चाहिँ अहिले त अब आफूहरूले गर्ने प्रोजेक्ट भनेको अथवा केही टास्क भनेको सिम्पलै हुन्छ है लेटर अन अब कुनै प्रोजेक्टमा आफूहरूले काम गर्ने बेलामा चाहिँ सो प्रोजेक्ट आर्किटेक्चर इज द रियली इम्पोर्टेन्ट थिङ है ओके जस्तै यहाँ डिफ्रेन्ट लेयरहरू बनाइरहेको छ चाहिँ कोर So this one is core infrastructure test, web API, होइन web MVC भनेर अब यसरी चाहिँ डिफ्रेन्ट लेयरमा चाहिँ देखाइरहेको छ सो इच अफ दिस लेयर आर अ प्रोजेक्ट यहाँ अब यसरी राखिरहेको छ ओके भ्यू मोडल्स सो दिस थिङ अब जसरी चाहिँ अब आफूले चाहिँ स्ट्रक्चर गर्दै जाने इन्टरफेसेस इन्टिटिज पोको इन्टिटिज भनेर अघि आएको चाहिँ यो भयो कि है सो दिस इज अबाउट द पेमेन्ट अदर इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चरमा पनि So this thing we can find, okay, with the infrastructure repository pattern or चाहिँ देखेर So this is about the test, this is about the API, this is about the web MVC structure follow गरिकन पनि अरु प्रोजेक्ट अरु लेयर्सहरु चाहिँ एड अन गर्दै चाहिँ गरिरहेको छ. So this is how we can do. Okay. So this is simple, है. पछि अब आफूहरुले कुनै लेयर आर्किटेक्चरमा गर्नु पर्यो भने नि यस्तो हुन्छ भन्ने कन्सेप्चुअली थाहा होस् भन्नको लागि स्टिल इट रिक्वायर मोर एक्सपिरियन्स है. अब कसरी जाने कुन वेबाट जान्छ भन्ने कुरा थाहा पाउनको लागि इट टेक्स टाइम. अहिले आफूहरुले चाहिँ आर्किटेक्चर यसरी जाने भन्ने कुरा त्यो बेला पनि भएको छैन है. फर नाउ अब एप्लिकेसन लजिकहरुमा कसरी चल्ने एमभीसी प्रोजेक्टहरु चाहिँ कसरी मैले चाहिँ बनाउने भन्ने कुरा त्यसमै इट्स बेटर यु फोकस अन दिस थिङ है. ओके ल केही छ आजलाई
छैन होला
ल आजलाई यति नै गरौँ त्यसो भए.
हुन्छ सर.
ओके ल थ्यांक यू क्लास.
हस् सर थ्यांक यू सर.